Back again, everyone, on Futsal News. Jake here. Of course, Luke's here. And this month's guest is Kaue Martins with BRUSA Futsal. Welcome to the stream. Glad to have you, Kaue.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. Hey, we're excited. This is going to be a really good conversation. I think it's going to be eye-opening to a lot of fans as well as a lot of club owners and academy owners out there in the country. And I think even internationally, as I've been fortunate to talk to people across the globe here with this little project we've been doing. So really exciting to see. One thing I want to say right out front is if you guys haven't already, go check out the Santa Fe Gloom YouTube page. David Fresquez, who's been on the channel as well, is doing his own podcast there. If you watched it today, you're going to hear way too much of me today, so I apologize. But mostly he's doing a lot of folks from Santa Fe and building the community there and creating a community with his futsal team. So if you're interested in that, check it out. But in the meantime, today is all about Arizona and BRUSA. So Kaue, why don't you start off by introducing yourself to us and telling us a little bit about you?
Okay. I'm Kaue Martins, born and raised in São Paulo, Brazil. Just like every kid, had a dream of playing football and futsal for professionally. My family is like a football family, so every generation there's one or two professional players. So I was kind of born into it, more so than like a normal Brazilian family per se. So there's a little bit of pressure as far as that, but it's something like, I don't know. If you've been to South America, to Brazil, it's everyone plays, like grandmas, grandpas. You go on the street, there's people playing. You go in the corners, it's just what it is. So I come from from that sort of stuff. So that's where the passion comes from. Um, I moved here to the U.S. My dad moved in here. I obviously didn't want to come. But you have everything over there, playing for academies and whatnot. You have a dream of becoming a professional player there. But, um, looking back, I think it was a good decision, opened up a lot of doors for me, both in the career and personal. I was fortunate enough to be able to play, in Spain, in Brazil, and so on and so forth. So, got to play for the Brazilian national team on the AMF side. Played a Copa America there, which was nice. And, on the U.S. side of things with the FIFA national team, and then with the AMF side on the World Cup there. So, can't complain. Now I have BRUSA. We built this project out of, nothing. So, yeah, a big summary of a lot of stuff.
Well, tell us a little more about BRUSA and how you came to form it.
Yeah. So I started. I played field here a little bit on for my MFC on the USL, and once I got injured, I came back to get treated here by the basketball team, the Suns, And when that happened, I got hired to coach for someone that was my coach, and it's like, oh, well, I'm here, why not? I make some extra money, and so after that, I got into coaching. My uncle is already living here, working for a local club, and we got into conversation. Why don't we start our own thing? Including futsal, bring the Brazil methodology and the whole sort of thing into the U.S. and try to adapt it into the reality here. And so we started a project called BRUSA, solely focused into soccer, and that kept growing. And then futsal demand kept growing. And then that's right about the time where I had to go back, and my my uncle and I started BRUSA, and we started growing on the soccer side of things, and then that Major League Futsal league. I don't know if you guys remember a while back. There's a guy here, Rosario, who hired me to play for his team. So I left, what I was doing there to do that. And that's when futsal was starting to get a little bit more serious. The league was a great idea. I wish I would have been a little bit better managed because I think it would have been, huge by now. But for us, that's how it started. And then, it kept BRUSA's futsal. And as BRUSA's kept going and focusing, well, bigger and bigger demand, we changed the name. We separated the two entities. And now, BRUSA is like club neutral. There's no attachment to any soccer, anything like that. Then there we had some bigger well, as we kept going with the business, we had some big investors reaching out and see what we're doing, and then we took to this multi-million dollar facility out here. It's called Legacy Sports Complex. It's 360, 380, 360 acres of like sports. That's where we train now. So on the futsal side of things, there's 6 futsal courts, international, like 40 by 42 by 20 meters. 6 of those. So we host most of our stuff over there. On the other side, on Complex B, there's a bunch of stuff for basketball, but you could use those for smaller futsal sides. When United Futsal came over here, talked to Rob Andrews. They brought in their tournaments and whatnot. They used the whole thing. It was packed with kids. So, anyways, bringing it back, it's kind of like the start of BRUSA. It started as a different name, attached to a soccer club, and then as it got going bigger, we separated, and the demands kept growing bigger. On the adult side of things, it wasn't always professional. I think it was like seems like where everyone was in the first 2 years, and then every year from then, guys getting paid and whatnot, like the normal stuff.
That's really cool. So it sounds like the development in you guys is there, and you guys are in Mesa, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I
So
bought the franchise from the guy and from Ralph Phoenix and turned into what it is now.
that is awesome. So it sounds like the development of what we see on the court through the NFPL is a demand for it that you guys actually saw in your community, which is exciting. I don't think many people see that across the country. It's more of educating the people around you to get into it, and it sounds like some of that might have already been happening.
But it started with brazos, like everyone wants to get better, period. So if they see value in it and you have a methodological process that shows and guide these players to it, especially on the youth side of things, people will come. If the project is good, it will sell itself because the player will become good. So it's not just, throw the ball into there. I read about futsal, they're just kicking the ball in the gym. Like futsal is a great tool to accelerate individual development. Is also a sport. So there's 2 pathways, just like it's done in Brazil. Like you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know what I mean? Like that's what I keep saying all the time. But for me, it's simple here. People try to make the wheel into a diamond, into a square. It's not that hard. Like it's already working a lot of places. Just see what works. Study a little bit to understand these processes and put into effect in your area.
Kind of on that topic, what do you think is the biggest thing holding back other academies that aren't getting to your guys' level? Is it them trying to put their own spin on it instead of letting it be the beautiful game?
I'm not too familiar with the other one, so like we're talking about it before, like I'm still learning what is going on there with the other one. So for me, I thought everything that we're doing was normal because I don't know. For me, where I come from is normal. Uh, but I see like some coaches are not super qualified. So there's that. People I played in college or whatever. I think the educational system, when you compare it to Spain and Brazil here, it's a little bit behind. They don't have a clear picture where what kind of methodology do we have, what kind of players we want to develop, and how we want to develop. Seems like it changes. There's it's like this, no, this like that. There's confusion up there. How is the someone local who wants to learn from that federation, willing to put in time and effort? If they're confused, there's not clear messages. Imagine the kids. So it just gets worse and worse. It's a very complicated thing. I don't think it's just that, but I think there's a bigger part into that.
Do you think, Kaue, that this methodology and all this comes down from the Brazil national team, and it should come down from the U.S. national team?
I think it should come down from the federation. So the federation should be the person who's organized, the entity who's organizing everything, breaking it down in a way that I guess normal people can understand and easier to consume and easier to spread. Starting with stuff in schools, making it as simple as possible, as cheap as possible, especially in the beginning. I understand as a business, a multi-million dollar business, I get it. I don't think that's going to change. I understand, the value of why they don't want to change, and I get all that stuff because at the end of the day, you got to make a living, and I get, the world that we live in, money is important. So if it comes down from them, picking a clear vision and direction, bringing it down into easier courses and more more substance on those courses that are going to be valuable to the coaches and better prepare them, I think we'll see the coaches being better prepared to pass on the message either on soccer and futsal as well. I think futsal is a little more murky than on the soccer side. Duceno's trying to do some of that good stuff there. He has a lot of knowledge that, obviously for political reasons, there was, whatever it was that happened there. But, he's a good guy with a lot of knowledge that, people can rely on. And I'm sure there's other ones lost around the country, especially with a lot of immigrants coming in here. So I think, the U.S. could, I don't know. It's hard to understand why the U.S. is not as big as they should when you have countries as big as one state producing world class players. It's hard to fathom how that's even logical.
I'm with you there, and I think one of the things that's most frustrating is you watch. Yeah, it's a perfect example of two worlds when you look at someplace like here where we've seen a lot of budget cuts, and like you said, maybe some questionable decisions with staffing that have happened over the last couple of years. But then you look at a place like France that is making multi-million-dollar investments and has made a public several-year plan that they've shared with the public. Hey, this is what we want to do. This is how we want to support the schools and find more kids. All this stuff. It's crazy as you watch the clubs and the national teams that play well in football as well as football, all growing up together. And on our side, I think in both football and futsal, we're feeling kind of lost and a loss for identity.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you don't have to. You just don't see it if you don't want to see it. Futsal is a big part, of Brazil's, bring up, and Spain and a lot of these other countries that are infusing futsal the correct manner into their methodology, into their everyday training. We'll see a big result. You'll start seeing the normal kids becoming better and the better kids becoming so much better. It only is going to help the futsal side and for sure the field side. So people just have to understand you don't have to spend millions and millions of dollars. The US is a rich country, let's be honest. There's a lot of space where people could play. It's not like they're playing on the streets. So if they really want to organize just a little bit, I think it's possible without spending a lot of money. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I don't know. I believe there's always a way if you want to.
Oh yeah, and even with like you said, the infrastructure here in the United States, I've made some friends in UK, and they all say the same thing. They're very envious of the facilities we have here that could support a full-size futsal court all over the country that are kind of underutilized.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they're playing in these leisure centers, as they call them there. And there's 8 different colored lines because they share them with every sport in the world. And they're really not big enough to support the game. It's a small-sided game that's made even smaller. It is an opportunity in the US that seems kind of squandered to me.
Yeah. And hopefully that changes soon. Hopefully the new staff that's there on the national team starts, keeps going what Dusan was trying to do. I don't know Everton that well. I talked to Sasha, a handful of times. Hopefully that, they'll be able to keep that going because, we don't want the US to be like go away or lose spots or all the hard work that the previous staff put in, and again, it's only going to help the kids if we're talking about the youth, and there's a huge potential here. It's a sleeping giant for sure.
Absolutely. And you've kind of seen that, you like you mentioned your experience as a player, you in different countries and here in the United States. You mentioned the AMF experience as well. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with AMF before NFPL and some of the differences for folks that might be unfamiliar with the two practices?
Yeah, it's almost similar, to futsal. But they have the throw-ins with the hand. The ball's a little bit heavier. Some minor rule changes there, but it's pretty much futsal as we know it here in the US. It's pretty big in other places. Futsal started with throw-ins and all that stuff, so they call it the original futsal and whatnot. I think FIFA took over somewhere around the 200s, 2000s or something like that. Late 1900s, early 2000s. But when I went there to Argentina to play the World Cup, there's a lot of FIFA players representing different national teams, so the level was pretty high, surprisingly. Lucho was playing that's on the US now, was playing for Argentina. So there's a lot of good players that are either representing different countries there, or they're just looking for an opportunity because of a visa still waiting and whatnot. They still get to participate, but in some countries, that's bigger than regular futsal per se.
What made you guys decide to make the jump over to NFPL?
We were playing on the American Futsal League. If there was a league that was going on our side, there was the bigger league. We had, I don't know, there's season we had 6, 8, 9 teams, and the competition, as you've seen, the games are pretty fierce. There's a lot of Venezuelans, Colombians, Mexicans and whatnot, and people are investing some decent money in bringing Mexican national team players. So as it kept going, I kept talking to Drew. I organized the American Futsal League side of things, me and my staff over here, which was a great learning experience. We make a lot of contacts, but it's for sure tough, to say the least. Dealing with older adults. There's a lot of egos and stuff like that, so that's a little bit challenging. So when I talked to Drew, I was like, Drew, I think it's if we can adjust A, B, C, and D, we can bring it together and do it. Like I said, this happened in Brazil, this happened in Japan, where they had 2 separate leagues and they come together to get something big. And we thought that last season was the moment to do it. We brought in those teams, and all for for futsal. I think it's what they're doing. It's the best option available today. I don't see anyone nearly close. There's that league that's for free and this and that, but then you're just playing men's league. That's what it is. It's selling something that it isn't. The NPFL is organized. They try to do the best they can. They have the streaming services, so it's the best option available. There's no shadow of a doubt there.
That's something I said with David when I was on his podcast. Is maybe some of what we work on doesn't go perfectly well. Some of the fans may be seeing something that doesn't look particularly polished if we're having an off night or missing a volunteer, things like that. But from what I see, I think and on this channel, there's been times where I have been critical of the league, but it's because they have the largest spotlight on them, so we see what they do well and what they don't do well in a much brighter spotlight than any other league in the U.S. And I think that what they've put forward so far is a way larger effort than what we see from teams on the East Coast. These free leagues, like you said, big thing for us, especially me and Luke. Just like we're here live now, we hate to see that those games, at least trying to make it professional until we find a way to truly get there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect, guys. It's not perfect, but it's walking, it's growing, it's taking the steps to be there, and it's giving opportunities for those teams for those owners and those clubs who are really organized to expand their brand in a segment of market that could be huge in the coming years. And if you do your job correctly, you can give a straight pathway from a youth players all the way to becoming professionals. On our side, they are professionals. They get a monthly salary. We train every single day. So that should be the goal, to be normal. I don't know. Like I said, for me, it's normal. That sort of should be happening. And as talking to you guys and more people, I'm learning that that's not normal, which is, I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me.
Well, and you did mention that you guys are taking this in a truly professional route, paying your players, and some other things we've talked about offline too. Can you talk a little bit about what your structure is for the week for these guys that are playing on your first team?
Yeah, on a week, yeah. So Mondays we have gym or strength and conditioning. If we're traveling, we have recovery. We have 2 guys that they're called Orhan and Erden. They have their masters in sports. They also work for the police, so they do they deal with high level, I guess, officials, training them, and then they deal with professional athletes. So they have a versatile experience on that sort of thing, and they're super good. And again, we keep the same methodology with the youth all the way or from the pros all the way to the youth on the strength and conditioning. So on Mondays for the pros guys, it's 6:30 a.m. there. Tuesdays and Wednesdays we go at night, and we have an experience with our reserve team as well. Sometimes we train together, sometimes we train separate, but there is an interaction there between both of the groups. And the B team is more for those guys like UPSL level players who are trying to be professional, or those guys that maybe he could have something, he's just not, at the pro level where we want him to be. So we give him an opportunity to try to develop them to possibly make that jump. We also give our older players an opportunity on the youth side of things to train with them, with the reserves, to start accelerating that adjustment. So Tuesday and Wednesdays around 8:30, they're about an hour, and 8:30 to 10 p.m. a little bit later, and then Thursday and Friday early mornings again. Wednesday's part of the session is strength and speed and agility. Mondays strength and conditioning. The other days all on the court, for about an hour and a half or so. So we try to bring, we try to improve our processes and put the right people in the right places to keep those processes going and try to improve it. We invest in our coaches' education, not only here, obviously in the U.S., but other licenses to be able to help. We're waiting for our coach to get here from Brazil. Supposed to be here in January, but you know how visas are a challenge. So we're waiting for that. So as soon as that's official and he gets in, we'll announce it. But he's a good coach there in Brazil.
That's exciting stuff.
We try.
Well, then, of course, you guys gotta convince some players to make that investment of time, and a lot of that is covering the financial aspect of it. Like you said, you have that in place. Can you talk a little bit about the build up to that, how you found a way to sustain that?
Yeah. So, like I said, you got to have a youth academy. You got to be able to manage those things correctly. You got to work on investors, sponsorships, stuff like that. Camps, tournaments. There's a lot of different pots where you can bring in to be able to pull something off like that. And simplifying a lot of complicated stuff. That's what it is. The guys are professionals, and they can get a little bit extra if they want to get involved on the youth side of things, which I think is normal. But they're first and foremost professional players, and that's what it is. We try to bring players from abroad to bring that experience, and if possible, we try to invest in 1 or 2 local players who seem like they have potential. We are currently also rebuilding our team. We had on the American Futsal League times, we had a very successful stint with a lot of Brazilians, and it was great. But as some of them get older, it ends at that 4 or 5 year period, cycle. We have to renew it, and this is our 3rd year renewing. We have a decent base now. We have one youth academy product, Micah. He was my player for a long time. Went through our system. He's the golden Chow example, playing at a super good level. When Dusan was as the coach, they were looking at him to for the team. Now with the change, we'll see where he lands. But the kid's very good. He's responsible, and is the example for all their youth academies players that want to be a professional. He's been to Brazil, he's been to Spain, so he's got a lot of international experience for a young guy, not a little guy anymore, young guy.
Well, and I think he's gotten a Player of the Week award a couple of times in the NFPL in the last 2 years as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So definitely shining bright in the league, which is exciting.
Yeah, he's going to be going to Brazil again and in the summer to continue his development.
That's
hey,
really,
Kaue,
really cool.
as far as your youth, as far as your youth goes, where are you pushing these prospects? Are you pushing them abroad? Are you pushing them to go for the U.S. national team or Brazil? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, as far as for the youth academy, our goal here is to help them reach their goals, because they also play soccer. So there's I guess 3 or 4 different categories where they fall. I want to use futsal to become a better soccer player. I want to use futsal to get become more skillful and see where that takes me if it's for college. And there's those guys that want to be professionals. Oh no, I'm for sure want to be professional. On our 2009 team, there's like 4 to 6 players that I want to be a professional player. I want to be a professional player. So we push them to either to our professional team, or we give them experience abroad as well. With the context that I have, it really depends how good and how committed that they are. Because obviously, wanting to be good and putting in the time, the sacrifice to be good is a big leap, and that's where we see where they go. But we want them to go to the national team. Hopefully the national team is continues their growth like they had for us to provide these experiences, these possibilities. But I think Micah is one that, if he gets called up tomorrow, he could show off, and he belongs there. That's from someone who's been there, for getting called up and whatnot. So I know the majority of the guys there.
Talk a little bit more about that club structure too that has found you guys like this that suddenly, even if they're not in your first team, they're worth putting your name on as you reach out to your contacts around the globe, because that's a big risk for you as well to send them off. They're outside of kind of that safety net of the local academy, and they gotta find their wings and fly. What is kind of your thought process as you're analyzing players? Something formal or
like the local players or the players from abroad that we bring?
The local, both really. How are you analyzing these guys to see if they're worth the investment?
So for the international players, I scout them out and talk to them for about 6 months before we bring them, to know the person, because at the end of the day, you're bringing a person, the players attached to that. So understanding who they are, what makes them tick. Obviously, there's a limitation to that because you're talking online, you're talking over the phone and this and that. But you get it makes the probability of you getting the right player to your project higher. So we watch them. I watch games. I watch their highlights. I talk to them. I talk to their current coach. So it's a process. A lot of people come and send messages. I want to come. Some people offer to come for free as well. But we're not looking just for a player. It's not. You can find good players anywhere. There's a bunch of good players all over the place. So we're looking for the right player and the right person that fits our project, and that's the tougher part. But I guess it's just like getting married. You're gonna go through a lot of bad ones until you find a good one, and just continue growing from there. So
I got a question from the chat here from David. What's the off-season routine look like for you guys? Get involved in tournaments, or is there a regiment involved?
Yeah, so our season goes from our preseason starts around October, November, about 3 times a week. Just lifting, preventing injuries, finding those muscle imbalances so the players can last the whole season. Our season playing wise starts January and goes all the way to August. So we're training every single day. Now we're going to be playing the U.S. Futsal Open Cup that Drew is putting it together there. There's also a cup in New Mexico that we attend there, where the former New Mexico elite plays from. And we go to nationals as well. That's another event that we go, and we close off the season with our own tournament. As a club, we host 2 tournaments, for youth and adults, August and January, and that's really the end of that. Then the guys get about a month off, and then we start all over again.
Really keeps it moving. So it's outside of the traditional league schedule then as well, which is good.
For sure.
And keep them in shape for the next big event.
Yeah, it's just like you see in any other country. They have the league schedule, they have the cups, and they have, I guess, nationals would be our Champions League per se, and that's how we view it.
That's good stuff. Well, and it paid off for you guys last season because you were Southwest Division champions. Won it pretty handily last year. This year, everyone's really been gunning for you guys. As I watch the streams across different competitions, it seems like everyone is playing a notch higher when they play you guys than they do each other.
Yeah.
So talk about what that does to the mentality for the team. Does that change the way you guys train? Does that change your mindset within the team as you guys go into a game?
That's a good question. I think for us, we don't focus on the other teams. There's a lot of people that talk a lot of stuff and I want to be there, this and that. They talk a lot, but that's just part of the game. We know that regardless of winning or losing a game, we're trying to raise the standard, and winning and losing is part of the game. So, it's good that people want to beat us, but we just continue pushing and focusing on what we need to happen on our side. I think this season, not having the coach when we plan to have it kind of influenced some things. The Orhan and Erden have been stepping in to do it, and talks with the guys from there. We had two more players that were supposed to be here, 2 Alas that were supposed to be here, but for visas reasons they weren't able to be here. So we're a little bit shorter on that side of things, but mainly not having the coach here 100%. I think left some small details out And when, you think everything is fine and people understand, especially with the new players coming in, they understand like the concept, but when those details are changed defensively or offensively, still need a little bit more work. But you cannot get that until you have someone, sitting from the outside on the daily basis to be able to correct those things. So, like I said, I like that we're pushing everyone to get better because that's exactly what we want to do. Respect everyone to get better. If they get better and they grow, we grow, and that's what it is. The rivalry is inside the court and not outside of it. Some people take that a little bit further. But on our side, as soon as the game is over, it's over. If you're not like doing anything dirty per se, is trying to like be malicious, then it's fine. It's done there. But like I said, we offered help for every single team around our neck of the woods. They need help. Offer partnerships to all of them. That we have stuff that can help them grow. Come to our tournaments or whatever. And some people think it's valuable, some people think it's not, and that's fine. Life goes on. We'll continue focusing on our process regardless of wins or losses. We know that our processes are good and there's no question about it. We understand it's a long-term process, and winning a game here or losing to there, when people now think they're the champions, because that doesn't really phase us. Obviously we train harder to improve. There's video analysis and all that stuff, but yeah, it doesn't really like phase us. We know what the responsibility that we have, and we hold ourselves accountable for sure every single day.
Hey Kaue, as much as you're comfortable with, can you pull back the curtain a little bit as someone who really loves tactics? You talked about coaches, you talked about bringing in players. What is the BRUSA style? What is the BRUSA tactic? What do you guys go out and try and do every game?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like imposing our game, like you've seen, I think for our methodology, the Brazilian methodology was just some Spanish influences, meaning that obviously in the Brazilian game, you're going to have 1v1s. You want, players to be skillful. Obviously, not every single player is like a Brazilian player here, so there's a level of adjustment. So, that's when I think the Spanish influence bringing more of the tactical side of things, because at the end of the day, you're stronger together than you are individually. So that's where we try to push our strength on and off the ball. You don't always need to have the ball to control the game. You can control the space without the ball. And when you do have the ball, make it count. Have organized movements to create space or to take advantage of something that the players got. They went to the right. They called whatever one, then went to the right. Okay, but that one has like 3 other variations: go to the right or go to the left. They go forward or go back. So it's like a chess match per se. You know what I mean? And that's, I guess, tactically speaking, we try to make sure we're prepared to take advantage of spaces. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that comes with the game and us understanding that it's a long-term process, especially when we bring local guys, who are learning, mixing with more experienced guys. It just takes a little bit, and we understand that. So hopefully that answers it.
No, I think it really does. One particular point I want to talk to you about is you really play a pivot role out there on the court. You play the big man up top. Can you speak to a little bit to your tactics, what you put your head each game, and the way you play each game?
For me, individual as a player?
Yeah, so you as an individual.
For me as a player, I feel comfortable, with a little bit of the experience that I had. I played, here and there. I can play in front of them. So people think, he's a bigger guy. I weigh like 206 pounds. So I'm not little. But people, they think I'm slower than I actually am. So that catches people by surprise. They try to mark me in front. So I just play in behind. They play in behind. Then I play in front. Or, they try to push me to the side and I can play to the side. So I think, I'm decent with both legs, I would say. Coming back from a knee injury, I'm still not 100%. I'm about 60, 65%, from before. But I've been able to help my team just based on experience to be able to, I can play here, try to take advantage of those spaces. So for me as a player, I see who I'm playing against. As I get to know them a little bit more, you understand that, their weaknesses and, take advantage of that. I think it's easier for me because I can go right or left, front and backwards. Sometimes you get, I'm going to block him this way and he cannot play. For me, it is indifferent. Whatever space you give me, that's the space I'm going to try to use. And, sometimes I'm not going to score every single game for now, That's my goal as soon as I keep getting better. But I know that if they let me receive the ball, yeah, I'm dangerous. So I'm either turning to almost be a shot or I'm laying someone off. And I know that they know that. A lot of them like to talk crap, so which makes it funner for me. It makes me more in the game, so I don't mind that at all. It's part of the game. But yeah, individual as a player, that's what I look into. And I know the other players know that if I ever get the ball, that I'm dangerous. I can feel it in the game. They might not say it, but you feel it. It's like, I don't know, blood in the water, per se. So for me, in my player mind, that's what I'm thinking, looking for the spaces. But yeah.
I noticed that I think Flagship is taking a similar model this year to you guys, where they're starting to bring some players in. I think we saw some fresh faces on their team that were international moves. I know they've been in the chat here recently and some other live streams mentioning that they're trying to make that similar investment. Is that someone you hear from often, especially considering kind of natural rivals who have been there over the last seasons?
I talked to Pablo before. I helped them get into the American Futsal League. We helped them with a few scrimmages when they're starting there to gather some more money so they can, get into the season. So I didn't know that they're trying to do that, but if I was on his shoes, I would say that's a good move to go. Understanding that it's a long-term process. You might not win, right away, but if you are sure about your processes, understand where it will take you, then you got to believe and go through it. And might not lead to victories right away. Maybe bringing in. I know that one of our former players are playing over there as well, the Colombian guy there. So that will help. The younger players come along. So I think trying to find the balance between the local and if you have the money and the organization to bring those guys, why not? It helps whoever's there, because you got to think about the future. Bring a player, plays 2 years, then whatever, start playing Mexican League, whatever. He's playing something else, or he's working on something else. Then you lose everything that you put into. So yeah, that's what I think.
When you've mentioned some of the struggles you guys have had with the visas and getting things moved in, but the league is the division as a whole has always been competitive. A little bit we've seen in the last few seasons, but especially this season. I think Drew might have to consider renaming the Southwest Wild West, because there's no true winner here this year, which is really exciting. Are you seeing people kind of take your blueprint and try and mimic it their own way? Is that why this cream is rising to the top in the Southwest division compared to maybe what we're used to seeing in the Midwest?
I think it's a little too early to say that, because like a year or two from here, but I hope they do. Like I said, the more that they grow, the better it is for us and for everybody else. There's no secret. I'm not holding it to like a golden goose egg. I've been pretty open about it, because I want everyone to grow, and that will make us grow. I push everyone to grow. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I'm pretty open. I try to help and give feedback as much as possible, because we want everyone to grow. So Pablo hasn't, told me any of that stuff, but if he is, that's awesome. We're rooting for everyone. In the courts, we can be rivals, but outside, we don't have any dislikes. Oh, I hate this guy. It's not like that at all. We might cuss at each other, whatever, in the match, but like I said, it stays in there.
It's that community and family aspect of the sport. I think that futsal fans and players are some of the most passionate of any sport in the world, and it's going to show through on the court no matter what. I don't care how good of a relationship you have with the other guy.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of what we do. But it's interesting to see, and I love the concept that you're trying to be that rising tide and help all be successful, so that we can have a much nicer future for hopefully that next generation player.
Yeah, I think if everyone, even on the youth side of things, if everyone try to help each other, the group or the futsal community grow more, or align with people that want to do that, it would be better. It would be much further than it is today. That's my 2 cents about it. We're looking for clubs that have the same mentality, who are trying to reach the same goals. Something that will help both sides. And if we have something that can help them and vice versa, we're here to do that. We're trying to expand to Hawaii as well in the near future. So we're working on some things. We're looking for one more sponsor to be able to get our own place as well. Even though we're fortunate to have Legacy, which is amazing. It'd be nice to have our own facilities. So that's what we're working on to do. I mean, we're trying to continue the growth and keep futsal moving from here. Turn Arizona into a strong base. And when they think of BRUSA, yeah, U.S. soccer, U.S. futsal, BRUSA. In North America eventually, BRUSA. That's our long-term goal. Think of U.S. futsal, they think of us.
That's awesome. What great aspirations as well. Between that and the building, that's Hawaii and the building is insane. You mentioned the sponsors being a part of that process, and I think a lot of teams struggle with that. If you're willing, can you share with us what your approach is to attaining sponsors? What have you found is important to them to secure those funds, and how important is it to you to put this product on the court as you have?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's challenging. You got to know, the right people to be able to get in some of these places. We were fortunate enough to have a few contacts that, were able to get us in and then us present our product, having the youth academy, so we have here at the club, we offer everything they can imagine. We have rec, we have, the youth academy, we have elite academy, which is, they can train, 4 or 5 times a week, plus strength and conditioning. So we reach more people. We have, camps once a month. We have 2 tournaments. We have the pros. We have the reserves. So with all that stuff, I think we're reaching a large amount of people. Our social media does decently well too, anywhere from 15 to 30,000 people depending on the month. So I think mixing all that stuff, having the facility there, being able to attract more eyes into a big facility like that has made it easier for us to to offer more. Having the social media, we had a few. What's it called? I think in English, outdoor, the one that you put like on the freeway and is that what's it called in English? Is it that?
Oh, like a big billboard?
Yes. Yeah, we have a couple of those going as well. So that attracts more people, So I think being able to offer more eyes into the brand, and we're getting anywhere from 100 to 300 people in our pro matches there, who are paying to be there. That helps, when we show these numbers to these brands that are willing to either trying to give back to the community or find a way where their brand can be seen more, or whatever their goal may be. Every brand has a different goal, and we try to show them how much people we can target, and make it interesting for them to be able to invest and get something back. If we think it's going to get money and not give it back, we don't take it, because it's going to work this season, but it's not next season. So like it's a mirage. So try to stay away from that. We try to give them as much as we possibly can, so they keep coming back and it's sustainable. I guess that's our main goal when it comes to that.
Question from the chat from David. Women's futsal team at BRUSA? Question mark.
It's more of a challenging market here in Arizona. There is outside that Micah's sister has been training with us. We had a couple to a few girls show interest that showed up as well. But if we have the demand, we can for sure do it. We discussed it, we have a weekly meeting here with our staff. And that's been a topic of conversation around 3 times. One of our players, his name is Brian Vargas. He has some contacts there on a university that we're trying to connect and be able to build something like that. Today we don't have anything. We have a few girls that come sporadically to train with the reserves team, but my eyes on it. Hopefully within once our pro season ends, we'll have a little bit more time to focus and go recruiting a little bit more. But if the interest shows up and we get like 7 committed players that come only twice a week to begin, then we'll for sure can have it. We have the structure to be able to do it. We have the personnel to be able to do it. We just got to find those, the players to be able to do it. And since everything's so busy, I haven't been able to take time off of everything, running and training, managing the club, managing people, to be able to go there and watch these games, to be able to bring those potential players. But it's definitely in our to-do list here. We want to do it for sure.
What do you think about the women's national team being a thing now? I know we've only seen a couple of training camps, but with Marcia now being able to build that foundation for a true end game for these female players in futsal, do you think that's going to make the conversation a little louder for teams across the country? And how long do you think something like that will take to develop for us to see a league and teams similar to you in the NFPL that are comparable?
It's a super complex question. I hope that they do, I hope that they keep it going. If there's anything that we can do as a club or even individually, I for sure would try to push it as much as possible. As far as the NPFL, I think they had a women's division last year, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not sure what happened with that. I'm assuming it's probably the same challenge you find here. You know, uh, when I talked to a few girls about a year ago, they want to be professional. How much are you paying me? It's like, we're not paying anything. Like, you guys got to first start something. The pro team wasn't a pro team the first 2 years. Guys are just coming and this and that, and then it started become so. It feels like people want to come in the bus and already sit in the window. Like, you gotta build it already a little bit. So being a little bit more humble with that sort of stuff and understanding, that, oh, I wish this. Yeah, I wish I had a Ferrari too. But like, let's be realistic and work together. We're willing to put in the work. You're willing to invest. I'm willing to invest. Let's do it together. I think that's the type of mentality that sometimes is hard to find.
Well, I noticed too with the women's division in the NPL last year, two of the teams dropped out as a whole, which kind of killed it. But a lot of the players were young, and it seemed like there was a lot of budding talent. We saw Luke. Who do we always talk about? Chloe. What's her last name? Kelling?
No, Chloe Kelling was on Grand Rapids. Chloe Ricketts was on Futsal Factory, and then she went on to play in the the women's
WPSL?
league. Yeah, no, the women's professional league, or is that it? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, and then we saw players out of Ducks team that were representing Mexico as well on their national team in the I think U17. So
Grimaldo sisters, right?
Yes, and then the Luna twins. We saw Satali go to Chivas, which is really cool. So I mean, we kind of got a sneak peek at some really young talent before they hit the pro scene and started hitting the airwaves. It'd be interesting to see how this women's game continues to develop, and if if there's enough funding from USSF that's already a little shoestring to share between men and women, if we can really take off. But like you said, I think I agree with you, Kaue, that first we got to find some people that are willing to do what had to be done over the last few decades for the men, and that's kind of take it on the shins a little bit and just be humble, knowing that you're doing it for the greater good of future generations.
And if you're in a club, if you get like, I don't know, 4 clubs around the area that are doing that, you have a league, and that could turn into, like, if the national team can partner up maybe with these futsal clubs that are bigger and can host, they'll make the job easier. Let's host a camp over here, call the player. It would just make it a little bit easier, so I don't have to spend as much money, or I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways to get, the stuff done, both on the women's side and on the men's side. So, like I said, we're here to help. If they ever want to give us a call, we're here, to host or to whatever, we're willing to help with anything that we can possibly help.
When you guys are looking at, things like that, and you mentioned travel, and we talked a little bit offline before we went live about some of the travel you had to deal with getting to Colorado and not letting it disrupt your training sessions. Talk a little bit about how you plan for that for the season, because you guys in the Southwest Division have a lot more travel than the Midwest guys do, and I'm just curious how you handle that and how you budget for it.
Yeah, I think going to Colorado is for sure the hardest and the most expensive. So the way that the schedule was this season was, I, I think it was in super favor for us, so us having to travel more, especially travel. They want us to travel, one time to Colorado and another time Colorado. But to go to Colorado, we got to take a plane, because by van is not possible for you to do that trip and play. It's not physically possible for you to perform. So what we did this season is that we went there on Thursday, and from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Thursday, it was a Wednesday. I can't remember now. Wednesday or Thursday. We ended up having 4 sessions over there, to prepare, because obviously the altitude is different than here, so there is an impact into that. In the cold, I think those two mixtures make it harder if you're not used to it. So we went over there, with the plan. Our strength and conditioning coaches, were there. They do a lot of research and seeing what worked before and try to apply into here. and I can say that the first session there was rough. I was like gasping for air, but as you're in your second, third, fourth session, then you start feeling more acclimated. I think that they made an important difference physically. Even though we did not get the results that we wanted, I think the schedule also a little screws us up a little bit. Playing 2 games, back to back, having those conditions a lot how you would face the first game, and a little bit more defensive. We traveled with, I believe, 10 guys, 10, 11 guys. So it wasn't like a short roster by any means, but, that I think that was a little bit challenging. But long story short, whenever we travel, we go at least a day to 3 days before, try to have some sessions there to be able to acclimate, some mobility if it is, or whatever it is. We try to take some of the materials that we have. We have the compression sleeves, ultrasound machines. We have, those guns. So we have a bunch of stuff that we travel with, to give the players the best possible, situation to be able to perform at the highest level as they can.
So I kind of am going to detract a little bit from the topic we're talking about, but not too much. Kaue, bring out your crystal ball, and I want you to look into the future. Where does BRUSA go? Where do you see BRUSA in 5-10 years? But not only BRUSA, but if you could also speak to where you see futsal going in the next 5 to 10 years.
That's a good question. I think for BRUSA, in a perfect world, we would see us, within the next couple of years with our own facility. I think we see ourselves, more established on the youth side of things. We're fairly young on the youth side of things. Are going to complete 2 years. Being able to, obviously, developing kids takes a little bit of time. So doing something like that, having had a few generations of players, come up to the pro team, being able to play, better and better salaries, and be able to travel more abroad. We get a lot of invitations to go, to Europe, to Brazil, to North America here in Guatemala to be able to play these tournaments. So dipping our toes more internationally, with the long-term, coach is going to be able to, to help me put the vision into perspective, because it's very hard to do everything, by yourself. Steal the ball, pass to yourself, cross yourself, and head the ball inside. Sometimes, even though I have a super good, staff here, we're still, missing that head coach piece, which will put the vision into effect. So long story short, I think facility, a bit more established on the youth side, continue the growth on the men's side, being able to have a strong team to be able to give those youth players coming in a stable place to develop long term, and be able to send some of the players to the U.S. national team, to abroad, which we're already done. But maybe them getting signed by a big name, that would be a super cool thing to do. And as far as for the U.S., what I hope is that the league will continue to grow. Some more investors will come. We'll find the teams that are in here get more organized, so everyone is more normal, I would say, being able to pay all the players which they deserve. And hopefully the U.S. national team is closer to what it is in the rest of the world. More camps, a pathway for younger players to be able to get to the first team, and be able to work with these players way before. The national team has to be a place where players are more ready, maybe not 100% ready, but more ready, not having to teach the basics. So that's what I would hope, everyone's going, more teams, stronger financially, more organization, which I think is the biggest. I don't think money's the problem here. I think organization and professionalism with that sort of stuff is the biggest problem in my experience so far. Like I said, I'm learning a lot of things from this conversation from you guys. So I'm still fairly young on the challenges that other people have. But yeah, hopefully that happens. If we can help make it happen, we're here.
Sorry, I was muted. Okay. There it is. I'm a pro. Question from the chat from David. Who wins first and second in the Southwest Division this year?
gonna do everything that we can to be, in one of those places. And that's what we're hoping for. We got, a win that we were confident that we would get at home, and now we got a battle. We still have a few injuries, which is a little bit challenging for us. When you're paying guys, you cannot pay 20 guys. You can only pay a certain amount of guys, and when there's injuries, that affects that. But anyways, with all the hurdles and everything else, we hope that we're gonna do everything in our power to be able to win one of those teams there.
That's awesome. Getting a little off topic here, and if typically I try to prep our guests with questions, guys, just to pull the curtain behind. We didn't talk about this, but something that came to mind as Luke and I are chatting with you. You mentioned earlier in the stream about finding that significant other and going through some bad ones to get a good one. You work with your partner with the club and your significant other, and I believe you both have a lot of background with managing leagues and teams. Can you talk a little bit about that dynamic and how you guys make that work?
That's an awesome question. Yeah, Killeen is the love of my life. I can tell you that much. I didn't expect. I'm so glad. I didn't even want to come to the U.S., but after I got here, thank goodness, man, because she's she's perfect. Yeah, we obviously we had been together for about 10 years now, so it's a long time. We grew together in a lot of senses. We complete each other, which is good. The things that she's strong at, I'm not so strong at, and we kind of complete each other. We have a lot of conversations. We talk about futsal and BRUSA every single day. There's a time of the day where we turn off just to focus on on a relationship and all that stuff. But she's my partner. If I had a team, she'd be my number 10 for sure. The important player into there. She deals with that, with the registration side of things, so she's the general manager. That's the title that she has over here. So logistical stuff, how do we need to get the guys to Colorado in 3 days? What can we do? She knows the budget, she knows everything that needs to happen, and she gets it done. There's never, like, here at our club, there's no doesn't exist. We always find out a way to do it. How it's like, no doesn't exist. How can we get this done? And we come together to do so. She's super, organized. She understands how I like things, to be done. And as she, without her, there wouldn't be a BRUSA, and vice versa. We're a team, along with, Christian and Jaron, who are, some of the other ones who are helping over here, or her and Narrative. And we're training Micah to be the next one he's my little prodigy. So he's the next one to be coming up to help. So that, that's our little team here. But specifically for my wife, she does all the important registration side. She's the heart. The heart that keeps everything, because it has the feminine touch. This she's better with words. I'm a little bit of a brute sometimes, I could say, and she talks to guys. So I learned a lot of that stuff on how to better manage people, even if you're upset, or even if they are upset, understanding that listening and understanding where they're coming from, to try to find a point where we can find a common ground and try to resolve as best as possible. So yeah, that's
really cool. Do you think that has an impact on the rest of the culture of your club, when people see you two working so well together and having that family connection as well on top of that?
I think, like I said, if you're from Brazil, the family aspect is normal. So that's where we try to take. We treat people like they're our family. If they give us everything, we give them everything, and they're part of our futsal family. For example, for our pro team, we have parties. We bring people over here. Even some of the families from the youth teams that are super close to us, they become close because you guys are so warm, but it's just, for us, it's normal. That's how it is in Brazil. We invite people to come in, have a coffee in your house. It's just part of it. So we try to take the same approach, being warm, within our relationship, and within our relationship to, with the youth families, to the players, to the coaches. It has to be a big family, and everyone putting the rope to the side. And we profit that on the good, and especially on the bad moments. That's the most important. That's when you're going to find out who's who. And that's, recruiting people, if you go all the way back, knowing what person, who that person is the most important. Obviously, they have to be qualified, but understand that qualified professional is someone that fits in your project is, a super big deal.
That's incredible. I'd imagine there's a bit of balance to that too, like you said, that good and bad, and at the end of the day, there's business to be done, whether it be on the court or behind the scenes, and understanding that that's just a part of the dynamic of the family you're living in.
No, it's futsal is our life there. So we talk, we understand it. In Brazil, that's how it is. When she first got into it, it's like, this is where you're signing up for. Make sure this is what you want. And she dove in head first. She speaks Portuguese fluently, which is awesome. We've been to Brazil several times, so my home is like a little Brazil for me, and she's a big part of that. Along with my parents to be able to make that happen. So my brother, anyways, like the way we see our family is, we extend it to the players, to the coaches, and to the youth players. So it's our futsal family, and we treat them, like family, because in our eyes they are.
For sure. For sure. Luke's got a question for you.
So we've been talking about this quite a bit with other people on the podcast. And it's been kind of an interesting one. It's fan culture. And I know we talk about a lot of owners and players about how do you create that fan culture. And a lot of people feel like it's a natural thing, but also some of it is kind of, fostering that and helping the fans be comfortable in that and living into that, because I come from the Pacific Northwest with the Portland Timbers, and kind of the chainsaw and the sawing of the log and the the chants and all that, and I see a lot of really lively cultures. Speaking of down in San Lorenzo and in Brazil, and kind of that culture and the infectious nature of futsal that bleeds into the fans. And the people watching, we have a passion for it. You obviously play it, but there's also a fan culture part of it that people enjoying and watching the game, and the people that support what you guys are doing out there. I just kind of want to pull your thoughts or kind of get your thoughts on your take on fan culture in futsal.
I think that's super important, to have a sustainable business, both on the youth side and the adults, because at the end of the day, is entertainment. So, we don't, if you're in a country like Brazil or Spain, I think it will happen naturally for the most part. If you're in a country like here, I don't think it will happen naturally. Like, you have to stimulate that. You have to feed into it. You have to make, bring things that they can relate. What I mean by that, if you go to a basketball game, what do they have there? There's music, there's lights, it's a show, you're entertaining people. So understand, but obviously if you just come off the street, you don't know that, so you have to study a little bit and understand that there are methods nowadays to be able to enrich this experience, and that what you have is a product and you're offering something for the customer. And if it's good, people will come. If people are not coming, it's because you're not doing something, it's not complete. So there's more work to be done. So understanding where are the weaknesses and where are the strengths, and make the strengths stronger and the weakness strengths. I think it goes into there. For our for our team, we have the lights going on, we have a little smoke thing, we have music going in there. We've been talking about getting a mascot as well. That's been a little bit more challenging to be able to find someone consistent to be able to do that. We have a couple of things that we do, with the kids. We offer them certain things to be able to get there early, as it makes it easier that we have a youth academy. We have, they're super supportive, even with tournaments. So for them, this last weekend, I think we had maybe 150 people only, but there was a big soccer tournament going on, and people were like leaving their games, coming in late, like, oh, coach, we made it, doing the walkouts. So we have some things that engage the kids, which then parents will be excited for, and they'll also be entertaining for the parents. The one thing that we do not have that we've been trying to make it work is beer for the parents. So dads that are there, people love that. That's a no-brainer. So that's something I'm gonna work on for the next season. But we have some foods over there. People are super nice and welcoming. So they have a relationship. Hey, John. Hey, Mary. Like people at the door. So we greet people like you're coming back into your house or familiar place. Try to know everyone as not by name, but even introduce yourselves. Make sure that they have that experience of coming into there. Make sure it's entertaining, so that they're whatever money little money that they're paying is worth for them. For us here, it's um, 5 for youth and 10 for adults. So it's not like a lot of money, but what else can they be doing with that money? Oh, I could go to the movies. I can go do this. I got to make sure that what I'm offering is equal or better. Try to always give more than the customer's paying, so they can keep coming. And the rivaling experiences, we're giving more than those could. So that was a long explanation. Anyways, I'll try to make it shorter.
No, don't. That's the exciting part about this is we get to hear your passion about it, and I love that. I think that's awesome. And just from an eyeball test from watching the streams, I think you guys have one of the healthiest attendances in the Southwest. Now, with the addition of Santa Fe, maybe that's challenged, but I would also say that your guys' viewership in the streams, I always kind of make a mental note of where I see the number at, just to kind of use as a measuring stick for other areas of the United States. I just can't help myself, but I feel like you guys tend to pull a larger audience online too. Now, some of that's the away team fans, I'm sure, watching their guys and hoping they can pull off the upset. But I think a lot of it's too consistent to not just be that. I think you guys have a really great following, and clearly something you're doing is contagious and keeps people coming back.
Sure, I can tell you that from learning from the Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, all that stuff. We have a decent following, from Brazil and Spain. So I know a lot of those people are constantly asking for for the links and stuff like that. I can track that obviously on social media. I don't know about the page, but I heard last night after the game that we had around 1,000 people watching our yesterday's match. Well, I don't know I'm not sure if that's the biggest ever, but that's a decent number. 1,000 people watch, and that's you can pull out a couple. Start thinking about a little bit of sponsorships there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, you got a closer eye on the analytics, doing so much for the NFPL as you do, but I would venture to guess that that's probably the largest regular season number we've seen.
I would say that. Yeah, I would say that's pretty close. I haven't had a chance to eyeball that because I actually was streamed that game, and then I had to dip out, dad duties and such. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the YouTube channel for futsal, the National Futsal Premier League has been going like gangbusters. Really impressed. Last year we put a huge effort. A lot of people, Matt and Jake and me and Juan and Rudy and all the people just really pushing hard. Brian over in Columbus, just really pushing hard to make a really good product. Again, like you said, Kaue, trying to give people, they can watch anything. And if they're going to watch you, give them something to watch. If they're going to tune in, make it worth their while. Like I said, give quality streams and again, much props and shout out to your wife. I deal with her on the constant on streaming, and she's setting stuff up. Every single thing I've asked her, like you said, is never no. It's like, what can I do? And she always gets it done. Like, big shout out to your guys' professionalism out there at BRUSA. It's been so wonderful to work with you guys.
Thank you. We appreciate it. I mean, we know it's not perfect, but we try to make it better every time. We have, like I said, weekly meetings to identify the weaknesses, to try to make it better, one step at a time, climbing in this huge ladder.
With the social media bit and the streaming and getting these eyeballs from all over the world, is that all just stuff that feeds the machine for you guys? Is that normal, or is that something you've seen has grown with social media becoming more important over the years? It seems like social media has always been big since its inception, but every time you think it's gotten as big as it could, it gets bigger. What's your guys' impression from that?
Well, I think it's growing. More people, the youth get involved, and we bring more, player from here, player from there. That keeps attracting, more numbers. So that keeps growing. So nowadays, I didn't really like social media when it first came out. It's not like what to be posting and this and that, but it's something that you learn that it's just day to day, and that's now a tool to be able to, to show, your product if you are talking about a business. So I don't think there's a way of rolling back the wheel of time that's ever going to change. It's only going to get a bit more and more important. That can change, it's not Instagram, now it's this or it's that, now it's virtual reality, whatever. I'm sure that in the future there's going to be a change, but there's not. You just got to either you learn how to do and adapt, or you fall behind. That's what it is.
Well, what better market to tap than the South American market? Because I'm a big fan of the Copa Libertadores, and I try and catch it every year. And I'm watching the stream, and I look down on my phone, and I see that there's 19,000 other people watching the game with me. And then I have to remind myself that I'm just on the Spanish channel for Copa Libertadores. There's still a whole other Portuguese channel that's got another 23,000 people watching. So I think that's interesting, and I think that you guys being able to pull some players from that area and the experience that you guys have had with dealing with the visas and stuff to bring players here. You bring a fan base with you as well with that player. I was fortunate enough to see that a little bit when the very short history of futsal in my neck of the woods, we had 3 players from Argentina, and the following that created and the friendships that created that are still in place for 4 years later is incredible.
Yeah, I think that's crucial to have, to make your brand grow, and, fans, so that plays a big part. We almost had a couple big time players come. One before, right after COVID, I can't say the name, but I can say that he played for the Brazilian national team before. And when I was playing there in Brazil, it was close. Hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to bring a couple of those that are going to turn, the heads of the futsal world. Like, holy crap. Like, how does this even happening? So, it's got to pull the time, it's got to be the right time and the right player to be able to do that. But my eyes out there for something like that. I have a few contacts, but we'll see. We'll see what happens in the future.
You can get Ferral out of retirement now that he's left Barcelona?
Well, I don't personally know him, but I know people that know him. I don't have that much money. If I did, I would.
Well, and along that note, talking about that rub, I mean, from those big players, look at what Ricardinho's done for some of the smaller markets of futsal in the world. His trip to Indonesia with Pendekar and how that created a massive swell. I mean, you listen to some of his highlights on that he's posted on his Instagram, and you hear the fans in the background, and there's 1,200 people standing above him in the balcony, just going nuts. And then, him going back to Europe to play in Latvia and give them the rub as well. That's incredible stuff. And I hope that the players that, everybody makes fun of the MLS for being a retirement league, but there's something to be said for these big players that pay it forward to the next group of guys and build a market somewhere else where it isn't. And I think that's actually commendable.
Again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, that's a clear example of that. And like, it works. That works. It's been working since the ball's round. So
that's right. Yep. Well, I want to ask you one more question that I'm going to put a spin on this. I try to ask kind of, if you could book the future, how you would do it. And you've actually had that experience as a league organizer and as a team owner, but I'm going to take it in a slightly different direction. We talk about that blueprint you've created and sharing it with other clubs and being open to questions and things as people are reaching out and contacting you for how you've found this secret sauce. If there's one public statement you can make to either aspiring academy owners or business owners in the futsal world, what would you tell them is most important looking ahead and how they would need to structure their club to be successful moving forward?
That's a good question. One thing, it's hard to say just one thing because you need several things to be able to do it. But I would say, invest in education is the most important. Why do I say that? Because if you know what you're doing, you understand the methodological process of what can be done, then you already have a good product. If you don't have a good product, you can put makeup on it, you can blow smoke. It grows a little bit until people know, but you cannot. People that know what they're doing, that play somewhere, that they're gonna know, and that sooner or later, your product is gonna be brought to the life for what it is. So that's what I would say. Thinking about the individual development, focusing on that over money, which is super hard because it is a business. But I think there's a balance. Like, if you take care of them, the other stuff will be a consequence to that. It's not an easy road by any means, but I think the most important is the product. If you know what you're doing, you know how to develop. If we're talking about the youth, or even on the adults, you might not get developing and having the knowledge of how to do it is the most important, for me.
That's awesome. And I guess I do have one more question. I'm sorry. I know I said that was the last one, but I do have one final question. you've created this really special thing in Mesa, which is in the Phoenix area. What would you say makes this area so special, and what makes it make what you do so special?
Uh, oh, sure. I mean, having had the connection on the soccer community before, and having a good reputation, winning a lot of stuff on the soccer side, I think that put like an expectation or like a reputation behind the name. I think that made it easier for me to start things. Uh, you know, Continue to invest on education and stuff like that, and bring the right people to the right positions. I think that if I wasn't playing, if I wasn't a professional player and all that stuff, I figured that would probably be a little bit harder. But I think having the connection in this area, and having, treating people like I would like them to be, like them to treat me, and focusing on the product, developing the kids, focusing on them. I think that's what made the difference, And when, people came looking for more, creating that demand, I had enough knowledge and context to be able to organize everything and put it together. Learning some from my time with my uncles, learning from the professional teams that I've been on, studying, getting licenses and all that stuff. I think I was like depositing like a bunch of little coins, and then when that time came and I saw that there was an opportunity, I was ready to jump on that opportunity. I don't think there's anything like, this only happens here in Arizona, in Mesa, Arizona. It does happen around the globe. I don't think it's like that. Now people are becoming, more and more into futsal, and I think it will turn into like a futsal mecca, like in the US. I see that happening, and we're working to make that happen. But in the beginning, I think it was just normal, just like any other. I mean, I don't know all the other places, obviously, but it didn't seem like it was anything because futsal didn't even exist, So it's not like I came into a market that's already growing. There was nothing, and we created, a demand, and from there just kept growing. I think, the people that were with me and the experience that I had prepared me to be able to take opportunity and connect all the dots. I had a bunch of little dots, and I just start connecting and bring people to help me, see the vision. So hopefully that answers it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many different aspects to the community, the family atmosphere of the club, the performance of the club, how it's run. I mean, there's just so many things, and I feel like you guys kind of have lightning in a bottle out there, and I feel like Santa Fe the same way as well. From talking to David, and they could really become something really special for futsal, and the Southwest could really become a hotbed for future development of the game, not just the players but the game itself. So it's kind of exciting to see from you guys. Um, we're gonna close things out there. I feel like I could pick your brain all night until the wee morning, but I'll let your kid eat up that time, not me. That's more important. Get you back to that family. But you guys' next game is against New Mexico Flagship, which is a bit of a rival for you guys, and I believe that is this coming weekend. So if you guys are looking to see Kaue's performance on the court, and us talking about the business aspect a lot tonight of his club, seeing how that translates to the play on the court. Perfect chance to do that. So check out the NFPL for that. Make sure you follow BRUSA on all social medias. I have those links in the description of this video, so don't be afraid to click on those and give them a follow. Outside of that, Kaue, anywhere else we should be following you?
We got Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We try to get a little YouTube BRUSA TV going. Every so often, post educational videos for the kids to to try it at home as well. Yeah, that's what we have.
That's awesome. Perfect. Yeah. So follow them there, guys. And then also, of course, if you guys want to follow along here, if you're new to the channel and see more interviews like this, make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications so you can check out the next one. We've got some really cool interviews that we've done already this year, and we've got a couple more really awesome interviews coming that I'm really excited for as well. So we're going to try and keep the content coming to you guys. Come back again in March, which is actually just right around the corner, and catch another live stream with us. And we hope to see you guys then. Until I see you then, don't forget to play with your soul.